welcome to the Women in Digital Business Funding class. Please do take your time. You're probably going to hear me say this over and over again, by the way, as you ladies join. Please do introduce yourselves in the chat. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you here. And it's really important that I just kind of understand who you are, what you do within your business, and what it is that you want to achieve. It just means as we go through this next 4 weeks, we go through these funding masterclasses, I can just draw on experiences, examples, analogies that can really help you if I understand what it is that you do and what it is that you want to achieve. So please do pop into the chat. Like I said, I'm probably going to be repeating myself. You're probably going to hear me repeating myself a few times. Actually, Princess, it'll be great if you could just put a message in the chat that as people enter in, if they could just introduce themselves into the chat as we're waiting for everyone, and just introduce themselves. Just what we do, we want them to just introduce themselves, their name, what they do, and what the objective that they're trying to achieve in their business is. Hey, look, we got Diane Riney here. Hey, Diane. I see Paulette. I see a few familiar names. Lucky me today. Hello all, welcome. You're probably going to hear me repeat myself quite a lot of times as everybody is just entering in. But please do introduce yourselves into the chat. Please do let me know your name, you know, what it is that you do, what your business does, and just what your overall objective is. This is a 4-week funding part series, but you know, when we're putting funding applications out, when we're looking for VCs, we're looking for any form of investment, how we present our business is absolutely really key. So it's always good for me to understand what it is that you do and what your overall objective is. So please do just start popping that into the chat. Judgment-free zone, you know, this is a safe place for everybody. You know, don't feel like, oh, am I going to be the first person? But I'll be quiet because maybe some of you are actually typing away. Right, we've got a few more coming in. And we are going to kick off pretty much on time today because we've got a lot to get through in a short space of time. Here we go. We've got more coming in. I don't hear that chat going off yet, ladies. But I guess you've got so loads to say. And I know I'm terrible at typing. I'm much more of a talker. Thanks, Princess. A few more coming in. And actually, I'm going to share screen from now, so at least you don't have to. Actually, no, I'm not, because I like seeing who's coming in, who everyone is. So actually, I won't do it just yet. Right, got a few more filtering in, and we will kick off in a few minutes. There we go, a few more coming in. Brilliant. Oh, look, someone's got their camera on. I love a camera. Hey, Josephine. And you know what it is? Your smile just lights up my screen.
Hey, Natalia, thank you.
Hey, my lovely. How are you? Happy Thursday.
I'm good. How are you? Happy Thursday to you too.
I'm feeling good. Everyone, I had to cancel last week. It was extreme circumstances, by the way. I'm so sorry. I was consulting. I got to the train station at Stansted at 3 o'clock. Bearing in mind our class is at 6, that is more than enough time for me to get back home. Do I not find out that someone got killed on the track because they jumped in front of the train, the poor train driver? They shut down all the trains that went all the way from Liverpool Street out to the north. So Cambridge, Stansted, all of that area. So the client paid to get me an Uber. Then I got onto the A406 and was just stuck there for an hour. Ladies, I had to walk on the A406. If any of you that know the A406 in London, as it came, the Uber came off the M11. I literally had to walk down to like Redbridge Roundabout where my husband picked me up. Yeah, honestly, I tried my best to get back here in time. So I'm feeling good that I'm here, and I do apologise. But luckily for us, the final series, which is with Dell, and I'll break everything down, everyone. Obviously, this is a 4-week masterclass with me, and this is really going to be featured around understanding how to present your business and how to let investors see that it's investable, or how to get funding application, how you present it to funders, should I say, I'm getting all tongue-tied today, is really important. So the next 4 weeks, we're really looking at you being able to put a pitch deck together and pitch, because you're going to have to do that over and over and over again, whether you've got a funding application, a grant application, or you've got access to VCs and other types of private funding. So you'll do that with me for 4 weeks. So this is going to be really valuable. And then those are qualifying. There's no big qualifications, just making sure that you're ready to apply for funding. That's when you'll go on to a special consultation with Dell, which is quite a lot more in depth, and they'll give you a lot of insight of how to get grants and how to get funding. And some of those grants and funds, they fund themselves. So it's like you're getting inside information almost of understanding how they assess the criteria, so you can make sure when you're putting your applications together, you can fall in line. So that takes place on the 31st of October. So even though we had the panic last week and we didn't start till this week, there was actually a week leeway. So welcome. Right, I'm gonna kick off now. There's a few more in the waiting room, but I can let everybody in as I'm going along. So let me share screen and let's get started. Oh, the chat is going off, so everybody know. I thought everyone was ignoring me. So Paulette, evening all, I'm Paulette. Hey Paulette, my business is Girls Like Me. I always love that name. I'm currently starting up. Initially, I want to do children's clothing, but want to go into mentoring in schools and etc. Hi Natalia. Hi Paulette. Pleasure to have you here. Diane, hey everyone. My business is Wellbeing and Wellness platform for Black women and women of Black heritage. Brilliant. And feel if you want to put your business web domains in the chat, feel absolutely free. Sharing is caring. That's what this community is all about. We've got Susan. Good evening, all. I'm Susan. I run a real estate agency dealing with letting, selling, and management of both residential and commercial properties in Kenya. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I love when we've got international presence, and I even love it more when it's Africa. Welcome. So looking to go into development of affordable housing. Absolutely lovely. Everybody that's here, we're going to kick off. For those of you who haven't heard me, I'm going to repeat myself again. For those of you that have had to go through this painful me repeating myself, I'm really sorry. So we're going to kick off and get started. Please do introduce yourselves into the chat. If you look at the very first message, we have asked you to just put your name, what your business is, and what your objective is. This is a 4-week series of masterclasses. They will be recorded. So if for any reason you miss one or you can't make one, they'll be recorded and they'll be put into our community. So make sure you got the login to our community. If you don't have the login to our community to hand, just go onto our website, www.womenindigitalbusiness.com, and where you've got the login button at the top, go on to that and it will say, if you haven't got your login details, you can reset your password, or if not, you can create an account. Once you do that, absolutely free, you go in there and that's where you'll find the recordings and a host of all other resources in there as well. Okay, so this is week 1 of the Funding Masterclass. For those of you that we cancelled last week and you was going to turn up, I'm really, really sorry. It was really beyond our control. I really couldn't help it. So with that said, I'm going to get started. So I think I'm able, is everybody in? Yep, I can let people in as I'm going along. Right, let me change my chat. Get rid of it. Right, sorry guys, tech part now. Oh, there's a few others in the chat. Sorry, after Susan. We got Kolosti. I'm from Togo. Love it. Another African princess in the room, or queen, should I say. Love it. I am a microfinance inspector. Oh, I feel scared already. But, but now I want to divert into the digitalization of government services. Good for you. Absolute excellent thing to do, and so much opportunity in Africa for that. Excited to have you here. My name is Edhika. Desire. I am a retail and wholesale lingerie entrepreneur. Love it. Like I said, ladies, if you've got any web links, any social media profiles, feel free to put them into the chat. This is a community for sharing and networking. And lastly, before I start, we've got Josephine. I'm Josephine and I'm launching a Christian stationery brand. Oh my gosh, I love that. That helps people to achieve purposeful and fulfilling lives. Oh, I love some of the business. I love all of them. Got some great businesses here. Right, brilliant. Diane has put her website into the chat. Please do check it out. Really great community that I also belong to myself. So with that said, guys, let's get started. So let me share screen. There we go. And let's get into present mode. So welcome to the Funding Masterclass #1. And today we're going to be looking at market research. Now, sometimes I feel like well, for me, definitely my experience. And guys, as I'm going along, feel free to come off mute and share, by the way, or put it into the chat. This is an open forum. I really do want to try and create a collaborative environment here. So anything that you want to share, any questions that you've got, just come off mute and just ask, share, whatever the case may be. This isn't just an hour of me just talking at you. Sorry, I've just admitted more people in, so I am going back and forth. So research, it's one of those things that we can think of a traditional business plan when we think about research, and we think about, quantitative research, qualitative research. I go back to thinking about a lot of the things that I was taught in university or college. The problem is that it becomes very academic in our process and the way that we think. It almost feels like I do this, I do that, I do this, I read this manual, I read this report, checklist. Yep, I've done my research. Here's a report on it. And then we almost treat it like doing a dissertation or doing an essay or an assignment, like we are in the education system. We are no longer in the education system. So when we talk about market research, we want to really understand who are our competitors. We want to really understand what does the marketplace look like. And yes, we need to understand the value of the marketplace, but the value of the marketplace is also owned by very many players. So if you in the marketplace are in the same market as someone that's one of those big conglomerate giants, you're going to have a hard time to get seen or be visible. So the idea of research is really for you to kind of find an entry, a hook, a back door, however it is that you want to look at it. But it's for you to kind of carve a niche and find a sweet spot in the market that suits you and suits your skill set. It's about knowing who your competition is. Okay, it's about understanding them and their customers, but from a much more deeper level, a more psychology, like what's their brand like, what's their swag like, what do I want to be like. It's more about the creative, touchy-feely stuff research and really understanding what do businesses offer, who are their customers, and why are these customers identifying so much with this business and their offering. And let's look at the business model. It's about really taking from research. It's helping you to make decisions on your business. It's not something that we just do and we file it in a folder. Okay, so today I really want to just kind of go through a design thinking methodology. Okay, design thinking methodology is a process that all larger organizations use. So your Ubers, your innocent drinks, your Airbnbs, your Nikes, your Coca-Colas, down to medium, small size businesses. It's a framework that we use to make sure that before we launch, we know that the idea and what we're doing is validated. And this is really where research comes in. So I want to kick off today's session with really having an honest conversation and asking you why are you here? Ask yourself this question. I want you to actually write it down if you've got a notepad. Why are you here? Because the objective of this masterclass is to really learn the design thinking methodology, learn the industry techniques and approaches for each stage of the methodology, and just use the design methodology to build a plan to bring your ideas to reality. So when you are filling out funding applications, if you do have to get up and pitch your business, whoever's listening, whoever's thinking about investing in you or looking at your business model, they can clearly see that, okay, you've validated your business and you've gone through a structure of design thinking to make sure that this business works before asking investment. Because the worst thing an investor wants to know is that you've got this great idea that they get, but you haven't actually done the work to prove that it can work. And that could look like many different things, because some of you might be thinking, well, that's the whole purpose of applying for funding. If I had the money for that, I'll be able to do the things to prove and test. But I just know. But us knowing is not enough. We have to be able to present our business and present evidence that we're not basing anything we're saying on why our business is going to be great based on our own thoughts, but based on evidence. Okay, so sit tight, but ask yourself that question. And some of you might be, I don't know, stalling with a piece of paper. I know I can be like that sometimes. Just pause. You might come back to answering this question at the end of the workshop. Okay, it's a bit like copywriting. I always say to people, write the body first and then write the headline last. But I just want you to really think about, like, why are you here? What was it that made you appeal to this? Yes, we want funds for our business, but think about what the bigger why is. What's the bigger picture? And that's why I asked, introduce yourself into the chat and what is your objective? It's really important that you understand what it is that you're working towards, or what we're fighting for almost, so we can stay focused. So there's going to be some ground rules as we kick off. I would like you to really just frame your mind. Okay, like, approach this class with an open and curious mindset. There might be times the next 4 weeks that I might say things that maybe you disagree with, you challenge me back. This is an open forum. This is a place where we can express ourselves, and go back and forth. I've got a really good colleague of mine on this call now, Diane, and that's one of the things I absolutely love about her. We go back and forth and she challenges me all the time. But it's great because that challenging means that I'm able to, like, navigate my trade and say, actually, hang on, maybe not, maybe look at this a different way. Just because we're all, experts within our own rights in our business doesn't mean to say that we can't learn off of each other. So just really important to make sure you frame your mind and use these sessions to challenge yourself, challenge me, challenge the members, but in a good, positive way, in a way that lifts us up as sisters and is sisterhood. Make sense? Microphones on mute, obviously, just for no feedback noise, but at the same time, active participation. So anytime, if you want to contribute, if you want to say anything, please just, take yourselves off mute. Right, sorry, I've got a new wave coming in. I need to take this off next week that you can all just join and I don't have to admit you. Right, welcome those that just entered in. So, who are we? Women in digital business, just for those of you that are not familiar with us, Princess did put a link into the chat that gives you access into our community for tools and resources. So please do check it out. But we're dedicated to empowering Black women and professionals in the tech industry. And when I say the tech industry, don't get frightened by that word. Tech is anything to do with software, to the front end of a website, the end of a website. It's to do with every single facet of selling online. And that doesn't mean to say you've got to be a coder. It doesn't mean to say, like, you sit behind a screen like Einstein, or you work in the bottom of the basement somewhere because you're a part of the IT crowd. Technology is everywhere. And I think how we frame and we look at technology is actually really important, because it's a word that, if you feel like you haven't been in the rise of this digital age or at the center of it, it's actually one of those words that can really frighten you or petrify you or make you feel like, I don't have that skill set, so I'm going to feel limited. Okay, it's like everything. There's always been a change in society for as long as this world has existed. There's always been a system in place and it always changes. And we always manage to cope and learn and adapt. And it's time to now start really embracing this, okay? So our recent relaunch is just a testament to our commitment. So we had a big overhaul and relaunch in the last year, where I really just want to create a community that serves Black women. I'm just going to keep it really transparent and really real. I've gone through so many years. I've gone through over 2 decades of trying my best, staying focused, staying dedicated. If I was to be honest with you, it's only in the last 5 years that I've really seen myself step out and break ceiling heights and get to a place that I've been fighting to get to from the age of, like, my early 20s. And this community was important to me because I just got tired of being ripped off. I got tired of going on programs, tired to signing up to things. I paid a lot of money to learn different things. It never worked out, never got the whole picture of the information, or I'm following somebody else's journey, it's not quite mine. Or I want to be upsold another large amount of sum just to get more information, just to find out that I've still got missing parts of the nuts and bolts. Because the problem is, it's like buying furniture from IKEA and having to put it together, but no one actually gives you the instructions in a chronological order. So because of that, you then start going into other communities, following other things. So now you're just getting confused because you're all over the place. And then on top of that, you're in a world and a system that just feels like at every corner, it seems like, is it personal? Am I getting held back? And you keep tucking it to the back of your mind and thinking, don't be silly. Like, we're in the 2020s. Look how far we've come. Quite often I've got to say, am I in 2024? We're so advanced in technology, science, and other areas. Sometimes it's hard to believe that, can we actually really be sitting there and suffering still from systematic racism, where actually I'm finding it hard to get ahead because the doors just aren't open. So that's what motivated me to really build this community. And this funding masterclass is just about really looking at, actually, this is how this industry has a system and this is how they look at things, this is how they want things done. But it also is going to give you a really great plan, knowing how to pitch your business and really look at it from all different angles to get it pitch and funding ready. It's going to catapult you in the way that you think about your business and the way that you do things. I promise you that. You are going to lead these 4 weeks and you're instantly going to want to make changes to your business. Okay, so just a little about women in digital business. And remember, guys, this is the introductory session as well. So there's not going to be this big spiel, I promise, at the beginning of every masterclass. But our vision is all about empowering Black women entrepreneurs in the digital age. And our mission is to provide the tools and knowledge that is often held back from us or not freely given to us, or we have to ask for it. And if we don't know what to ask for, it means that you can't ask the right questions. So we're here to make sure that you succeed. I just want to pass on all my failings, errors, learnings, successes onto you, without ripping anybody off, and just making sure we can help raise the next generation up and see more successful businesses and start seeing us in higher places. I'm just checking the chat quickly. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Princess. Princess is welcoming all the new welcomers. So let's get back into it. So today is all about design thinking. It's all about research. And like I said, if any larger organizations, your Apples, your Samsungs, all of them, if they're thinking about launching a new product, before they say, okay, this is what we're launching, they will go through a whole process of design thinking, which is a 5-stage human-centered approach, because they understand that an academic report about the marketplace and all the things that we're talking about research isn't just the only thing that we need to back test research and make sure that we are launching into the right marketplace, to the right audience with the right offering that's actually solving a problem that the audience has. They realize that we need to look at 5 human to human stages to make sure that this idea is completely airtight, validated before we start making money to launch it. And this is something that you really want to prove to any funders, any grants, that you've actually, if you haven't got that much business, if you haven't got the authority to show, what you want to show is that I've gone through the design thinking methodology and it's going to work. That you can show, you've got proof that how you've done it and what you're presenting, this is a good, solid idea. And design thinking is not just about showing the funders as well. It's also going to, like I said, challenge you to think about, is this the right business model? What automation should I be using? Is this customer journey right? Is my value proposition actually really aligned with the customer? Maybe I should be targeting another type of customer. It's going to make you question a lot of things. So the 5 stages of design thinking, first stage is all about empathy. Empathize. So when you conduct your research, it's really important that you understand who your users are going to be, and you have to walk in their shoes. You have to be able to zone out and just have a fresh mind, remove all the blueprints you've got and put yourselves in their shoes, not what you think their shoes are. I do it all the time with my kids. Like, I'll ask them a question and tell them what they meant. And the funny thing is, I always say to people, don't tell me what I think. How can you get in my brain? You don't know what I think. But your job is kind of the impossible. Your job is to really be able to clear your mind and exhale, breathe, meditate, do what you've got to do, and really think, if I was my target audience, how would I feel about this? Would I use this? What would be the problems that I have? The problems what your consumer would have. So all of you, your customers have got a problem. Your product or service is the solution. So the two, for a great value proposition, have to be able to align. And when we're talking about target audiences, ladies, remember, we've got a target audience, but in this day and age, with so many different digital channels out there, you have to understand your customer segments. So you've got a target audience, but then you've also got different customer segments within that. So I always say to people, if you were selling bags and targeted mums, what type of mums are you targeting? Are you targeting mums with, who are babies, first-time mums? Are you targeting mums that work from home, mums that go out and work every day? They're all going to need different types of bags. And the same message that you might send to the first-time mum isn't the same message that you would send to the, parent that works away in the office, might need a different type of bag. So also understand who the different segments might be and within your research. But you really want to understand the users and see the world through their lens. Okay? Design is identifying the problem and creating a problem statement which defines the user's need. So the need is not your product or service. Okay, what any investor or funding application is going to want to see, and to be quite frank, for you to be able to grow your business and for you to keep your eyes on the prize and not get that entrepreneurial SOS, shiny object syndrome, that pulls you in all different areas, is to really be able to identify the problem. Forget about the solutions. When you're at this stage of design thinking, you just want to forget about what the solutions are. You just want to identify what is the problem to the customer segments. Okay, then you really want to ideate. You want to generate ideas and encourage creativity and quantity over quality. You want as many ideas as possible, because now that you've figured out, okay, this is what the problem would be for the actual perspective that you've had loads of empathy for, and you're thinking about everything from their point of view, what you want to do is just create this long list of ideas, okay, that are really, really creative. So you're going to ideate, but you're ideating and your ideas are based purely on the problem. The secret about design thinking is not in the early stages to keep jumping to solutions, because actually you're not going to get the solutions until after you've built some type of prototype and tested it, because more than likely you're going to get results from that, optimize and change it. So what this happens when you do the design thinking methodology in business, what happens is, I wish I'd have known this in the beginning, because rather than saying, yeah, this is my idea, I know it's going to work, I've done the academic market research, this is the market size, that means I can go after all these people. I'm not thinking about the cost that it's going to cost me to have to reach all these people. I'm now just thinking I'm going to launch, it's going to work. And even if I did have a budget, which I have done many a time to put in advertising, I'm just going to blow up. The problem is I haven't built a prototype and haven't tested. So I'm actually going, launching live and testing. And then when it doesn't work, I get really disheartened. I get really frustrated. I try to make something that's not working work, giving me spending more money, making me even more exhausted, until I think, you know what, I'm going to have to change a few things. So let me redo it again, or let me redo parts. And you keep following that cycle. And then one day a trickle starts to happen and you get it right. If you do the 5 stages of design thinking, you will stop yourself from launching and having to figure out all those mistakes, because you would have taken the time out to actually think, what's the problem I'm solving, and think about all the ideas. And from the long list of ideas you've got, you want to create tangible models and just test them and iterate them and learn from the failure. That testing is what allows you to go back and then optimize. And then that's when you can your test, and you'll start to see that trickle. But this time you didn't go live, you was doing this as a prototype. I always say to people, if you're not ready to launch your business, at least launch a personal brand of what you stand for, so you can start building a community. As you build a community, if you launch a product or service, you'll already have a community to sell to, even if it was a small one, if you just work on building the community. Because otherwise you've got to do the two things the same. So a lot of funders and a lot of investors, can you understand why they want to see design thinking? Because no one wants to give money away or invest money when they can see that you haven't really tested, and neither one of you are going to get any return on investment. Okay, so the 5 stages of design thinking are really, really key. And that's what I really want you to reflect at, on where am I now? What's my objective? And have I gone through this process? And all your business models are different, by the way. So please be known that any time that I come on here and I might facilitate or I train or I coach, there is never, ever, ever a one size fits all. Business is not that much different to life. So when I say that business models can be different, so there might be things that be like, okay, I can't actually test, but maybe I could do something else to achieve what I'm trying to say, and just be able to have that creative thinking and thinking outside the box. But this process is usually done over a week. But some of these big boys have got big teams, haven't they? Let's face it. But usually this process is repeated over and over again over the course of several months in what is known as sprints. So what I've realized I've done is I've launched my sprints live and just burnt through a whole load of money until I figured out how to try and get it right, rather than taking this design thinking approach. Hey, Diane's got her hand up. Hey, Diane.
Question. And it's interesting what you've just said, because to be honest, I've been in business for so long, but have never ever gone to funders ever. And I think that's more because in my head, when I think funders, I think they're gonna have more influence over what I want to do.
Yeah.
So it's a bit scary, let's put it that way. That's probably the best word to say. And then on top of that, when we say tech, because I know this sounds really silly, but when I pivoted to the new company and somebody says, "Oh, you're in tech," I thought, "Am I?" I just thought I want to reach people's pain points. So it's interesting, this whole tech.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't realize if you have sort of anything. I knew, websites or whatever apps and that, but I didn't necessarily mean. I thought tech was more engineering or more. Do you know what I mean? Just a little bit
Yeah.
more in depth.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and really valid points on both fronts. So to go to the funding first, I agree with you. I often haven't always gone for grants and funding, because it might change my business model, but that's because of what I'm trying to do as a community. What my business model is very community interest focused. So there was a time where it was like, okay, maybe I should register as a charity, maybe I should register as a CIC, all different names in different parts of the world, but it's a community interest company, the CIC in the UK, which still is non-profit, but I can still, be commercial, just not make a profit. And sometimes when you're funded, you've got to follow by rules and regulations of what the funders are trying to achieve. So when we say funding, I think as the weeks go on, you're going to kind of think to yourself, you might leave here and think funding's not for me, and that's okay. You might leave her and think, I definitely need the funding and the grants, maybe to do the research and testing, because I didn't think in a million years the research and testing was going to be so in depth. Maybe you want the funding to do that design methodology. And there are funds out there that will give you funds for research that will support particular groups. And that's where Dell will be able to fill the blanks in. It might be I don't want to stick by anybody, but actually I'm building an app, or I'm building something that's going to have a great asset to it. So I'm going to need some type of investor. Maybe I need a VC, maybe I need a unicorn. So I really do think it depends on what your business is. And I think that's what I definitely want to challenge in this next 4 weeks. So actually, great point, Diane, because some of you might leave there thinking funding isn't for me because of the model of my business. Like Diane said, especially when you're offering a service where you're benefiting people's lives, a lot of grants and fundings will stipulate to you, who your audience has to be, who are you trying to help. So you might, but then others of you might think, oh my God, there's no, I'm actually building an app. I've got a physical product. I need help to build that prototype. And you're going to need some funding or grants for different areas of your business. And there's many of those pots available. There's different pots of funding available for maybe if you want to launch a business, do research, maybe your business, you've proven it, but you want to scale. And like I said, there's other options where you might think, I don't want a grant or funding because I don't want to be tied into anyone. You might think actually seed funding might be great for me, and actually we can raise the money in rounds, but understand that you're going to give equity of your business away. Unfortunately, when it comes to funding, there's just pros and cons, but you've got to weigh up what's right for you. But what you will get out of this 4 weeks masterclass is just challenging you just to see where you are now, and just in terms of what funders, grants, VCs are looking for. Like, is your business pitch ready? Have you vetted it? So I actually think that's a really good point, actually, Diane. Thank you for others. And you're right, the tech industry, see, the word tech in the beginning meant people that coded and did a lot of hardwiring stuff, hardware, software. Technology is its own language. You've got the front end of the internet, and that's what we see and we know. We're swiping away on our smartphones. We're familiar with your Zooms, your Microsoft. We understand how to navigate them. Then you've got what sits behind what's all on the front, which is a whole language. It's not English, it's not Japanese, it's not Mandarin. It's got its own language. So as the technology's grown into digitalization, I think what's happened is that tech is inclusive of everything. But for some of us, we're so used to what tech used to mean before. They kept saying digitalization, the information age is here. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And I know for me, for the age that I'm at, I'm probably still in that place where I've got to keep reframing my mind with the word technology, if I was to be honest with you. And you're even going to see as I go on how important technology is. There's a lot of things we don't think of as technology, but they are. Anything where we are collaborating or doing anything. Sorry, that frightened me. That was the power. My laptop went low. Could you ever imagine if I cut out? So yeah, it's just reframing our minds about technology. So industry techniques and approaches. So when you're doing this design thinking, You know, even big organizations, they don't pay heavily to have this big app build. They don't hire staff in to build a website. You know, they don't build out this whole business just to be able to test this new business or product. They don't just launch it and then think to myself, oh, it doesn't work. And generally when a business does that, it has a way of maybe going wrong. But what you do is you can build a website yourself. In this day and age, you've got Strikely, Squarespace, Wix. And if you just give these softwares a chance, even if you struggle with them in the beginning, I used to be that person. You will start to navigate around it, just like you navigate through Google Docs, Word, Excel, Sheets, PowerPoint. All these things are now second nature to us. You know, even when it comes to building an app, you don't need to get an app builder. You don't need to go on Fiverr or Upworks. You can use apps like Marvel or Protty, and these will actually build a mock-up of an app out for you to actually be able to at least test and see, would this be functional? Or at least have some type of a plan. Even if you did pay someone to build you a prototype, you can architect the app in these softwares. And I've used these softwares. Imagine that I've actually taught these softwares to school leavers about 2-3 years ago, and I learned how to use these apps in one night. And I'm not just saying it, ladies. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm not just saying that. It's just about, you know, it's about always clearing your mind. So design thinking is about testing. It's testing that vital can't get the words out. Fifth step to validate the feasibility and effectiveness of the idea generated through the ideation. So it helps ensure that the proposed solutions align with your users' needs. That's the key. That's the sweet spot. Before you start building out big brands, we start building out marketing campaigns. And I'm saying this like it's easy peasy. It's not. You know, if there's something about that entrepreneurial spirit, and sometimes it can get to a point where it's like, I'm done talking. Like, I just need to get this out. It's like, I might as well go home, or I'm not going to do this. But actually, we have to exercise some patience. And design thinking does steer you in that direction of understanding that actually you need to stay in that testing phase and figure out what the model is. Then you can start investing money. When you do that, you can start paying out money in marketing because you know that the model you've got is going to work. Okay, so the next steps now are how to market research. You know, how. So market research is a systematic process of collecting, analysing, interpreting information about the market, including its potential dynamics and consumer behaviour. And there's so many tools that can help you with that, so many tools. But do you see how the design methodology is important? Because if you just did this part by itself, it doesn't bring it to life. It doesn't give it that human to human. But market research, you really want to be customer-centric approach in everything you do. Like quite often when people say, what do you think about this? What would you do? They don't ask me, what do you think your customers want? What do you think your customers would do? Okay, everything that you think about should be looking at, okay, how would my customer view that? Would my customer want that? Really important. And risk mitigation. For me, risk is important for you. You all need to understand your own red flags, by the way, on market research, in terms of what you find out and how much risk you've got to take. I'm not someone that's risk adverse, which can be a bad thing. Some, as much as a great thing, it's also going to be a bad thing. Strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, all of that. But you really want to be able to identify the risk and also understand this is the point that I'll go to. Okay, I've launched before and I spent a lot of money on digital advertising. I got a great response, but the quality of the audience was poor. Okay, we relaunched and we got rid of anybody on our database that wasn't interactive with us, and we've worked really hard in the last year and a bit to really bring up the quality of our audience so I can get to helping the right people. I spent thousands and thousands on Facebook advertising, literally like the stock market. This year around, I ran a YouTube campaign, and after £1,000, when I saw it's not quite working, I stopped and I said, you know what, I'm not playing this game again, because my risk mitigation was, okay, let's test it. And if it doesn't work in that stage, let's look at the data and see what data we got from this and decide what the next stage is. But I looked at the risk. I knew what point I was prepared to go to. I went bankrupt in my first business because I had no point. I kept going and going and going. I wouldn't listen. Heard that expression, those that don't hear must feel. I definitely felt without a shadow of a doubt. You know, innovation, you've got to be able to think outside the box. So market research, you know, call your competitors, pretend to be a customer. Go through the whole buying process, stalk their customers, go online. Like innovation can reveal some really big trends. And then nowadays in this digital world, there's so much resources of what you can research and get ideas of what people are doing. Innovation actually becomes quite natural through technology. The more and more you start to read and understand how technology can be so innovative, it starts to open your eyes and make your ideas bigger and bigger and bigger. Is someone off mute? Yeah, I'm just gonna mute you. Oh, I nearly muted myself. No problem. I could just hear the background noise. Resource allocation, market research guides, resource allocation, just ensuring that marketing budgets are spent, efficiently, and strategies. So you do need to think how much money I've got. If you have got this business and you've got absolutely no money to market it, you've got to figure out to yourself, okay, what can I do? So if you haven't got the money and you haven't got the time, we need to find some form of other solutions. You do have to be honest with yourself. What happens as entrepreneurs, you just tend to find money when you need it. But if you just have a think about, okay, what could I potentially find, and just be honest with yourself and think, I can scrap X together, then think about, how could I best use this? Rather than not saying you've got no money, then when you do have anything extra or you decide not to pay something else, which is what happens to all entrepreneurs when we're starting off, most just don't admit it. All I'm saying, the little resource that you have got, think about what you can get your hands on and just think what would be the best way this money's being spent, rather than not being honest with yourself. And when you get it, you kind of just spend it. But the thought process on what you're spending it for the output wasn't there. Be intentional. And just that competitive advantage, when you're doing your research, your job is not just to prove your business idea. Your job is to prove that you found an empty space or a sweet spot in a marketplace that you can either diversify or differentiate yourself to be able to get some of that market share. Okay, so understanding, how to look for competitive advantage and find niches is really, really important. Really important. So market research versus market research. So market research, informs marketing research by providing context and marketing data. You've got data, but okay, let's get switched off. Marketing research, you've got to put data into context. There's so much data available because of the digital world and intelligence, but it's about putting it into content. Like, I love that expression, content is king, but context is queen. Market research helps tailor your marketing strategies based on consumer insights. You're no longer just relying on assumptions that you make and shooting in the dark and thinking, it's got to be that way. I've already done this route and that route and this route, and it was a dead end. Okay, so it's market research all the way. And these are things that you already know. You've got primary market research, where this is the collection of original data. It involves first-hand data collection methods. For any of you that have got a marketplace and you've got customers or you've got a following, the first place you actually really should be starting with is them. The people that buy from you and the customers that you like and you want to find more of, you need to get to know them and understand them more, because actually those are the people that would enable you to put yourself in your customers' shoes. So if you know who your customers are, you should be asking them these questions. You should be giving them surveys, interviews, questionnaires, observations, focus group. I love focus groups, doing experiments. And these are the things that I did this once I'd started my business. When things went wrong, that's when I went back to data and research, rather than trying to do it in the beginning with the design methodology. Secondary market research, this is simply, the process of analysing existing, research data or literature produced by others. And this can be really interesting. You just got to be careful of fake news on the internet. But this could be more official things like intelligence data and databases. There are loads of things that you can go to the London British Library, Mintel reports, official business reports that will break down trends, what the market share is, the history of it. But just remember that, those that dominate those marketplaces have got a framework and a system that often isn't built for us. You've got to have real good creative thinking. And like I said, really be able to think about finding what are the gaps. I always say to people, stay away from bloody waters. Stay away from the marketplaces where you can easily get eaten up. You need to find a place in the markets where there's no blood. There's no sharks, sorry, not no blood, duh. And that's what these big market reports can do. Sometimes they make you feel like, do you know what? I could easily break this market. There's space for someone like me. And you know what? Look how much this market is worth. We can make X, Y, and Z. But you're going to have to understand, how do I break into this market? And some markets, depending on what business model you've got, aren't as breakable as you think. So now you've got to be creative and think, okay, where else could I go in this marketplace? I don't know if any of you have watched the recent documentary on BBC iPlayer, Paid in Full, about the music industry. It applies to a lot of different industries. You've got government collated statistical data. If you know where your audience is located, you know, it's not just about the psychology. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying many times we just look at the demographics of like age, gender, geographical location, you know, census reports, and we don't look at the psychology. So by no means am I saying we shouldn't be looking at no government collated statistical data, depending on our business models. And just professional and trade associations, just trying to get a feel for your marketplace, your customer, the history of it. It's going to give you insight, and actually it's going to make you more innovative. So when you think of startups, what kind of market research should you conduct? For some of you, you might be at that ideology stage of just at the beginning of your business where you haven't got customers or a following to ask that you can do surveys or focus groups, but you can research your competitors. So for, is it primary, is it secondary? It all depends on what is available to you. But irrespective, it's both. If you can do both, do both. If you can do it all, do as much as you possibly can to make sure you're drawing on everything. And when you put yourself in that mindset, especially as we're doing this week to week, if you go away and do this while the iron's hot, these are the things that then make you want to progress next. And that momentum starts to build. And little by little, you start to build your power. So idea validation is the process of testing and verifying whether a business concept or product idea is viable and has a market demand before investing significant resource. This is what the wealthy understand, but yeah. So idea validation, how do we validate an idea? How do we turn up to whether it's investors, funding, depending on the scenario, how do we turn up? Okay, how do we validate, our idea? So videology, an idea ahead of its time. So let's look at this. The goal: to get advertisers to place ads on digital platforms to reach their target audience. It also offers the tools to measure the video's efficiency. The problem: videology was an idea that was far too ahead of its time. They did not understand the market and the customer psychology. The industry at the time was not able to incorporate the ideas. Videology, in turn, was not able to adapt to the industry and ended up a startup failure. And look at that now. We now consume more content than video than anything else. So this is why it's important for you to be able to really validate your idea. Okay? So how do we avoid that happening to us? How do we conduct market research properly to stop something like that happening? Okay, so processes. So process one, we want to clearly define the goals and objectives of your research. What do you want to find out? Process two, gather data and information using primary and secondary research methods. Process three, analyze your findings using statistical analysis data, visualization data as well. Sometimes seeing all those spreadsheets and numbers can just put a person off and just make you think, I don't even want to do this part. I know in my earlier years of market research, it was like, yeah, done it. And just thought, I just want to get to launching the business. Literally like it was handing homework in, not realizing this is for my own benefit. Visualization tools. We now live in a world where your GA4, you've got a dashboard, Tableau. There's so many softwares that have got dashboards. That really brings data alive. It makes such a big difference. Process four, the insights gained from research can now be used to draw conclusions. Process five, make informed decisions. These decisions can range from product development, marketing strategies, market entry, and resource allocation. You should be drawing decisions from this research and giving a reason of why you think your business is going to work. When you look and you analyze and you talk about something and you just know it to be true. What I mean by that, it's like a bit like going for a job and you kind of know you got it, or doing something and you think, yeah, I got that. You get this feeling of, yeah, I got it. That's what you want. And just remember, market research is a continuous process. It's not a one-time activity. Once you've come up with a business model, once you've started and it starts to work, you should be tracking everything all the time anyway, because that's how you're going to grow. So make sure you ask the right questions. If your goal is to take information gathered from market research and to apply it into the decision making and design of the business, we need to ensure that the information we receive is accurate and it could be trusted. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. In this next 4 weeks, you're going to get bored of me. You've got to have a customer-centric approach. You have to avoid making assumptions about things. What is what you're saying based on? And what the data it's based on, what's the quality of that data? It's really important to just, be curious, but be creative. Be a knower, but be a learner as well. Really important. So we're going to look at the mom test, okay? And then we're going to pick up from here next week. So the mom test is a strategy for getting real insights out of potential users. So even when the people you are asking may be prone to lying to you, okay? So you tend to find colleagues, friends and families, and your mum in particular. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear. Okay, so it's really important that when you're looking at the official mum test, you want to look at, really look at, start with empathy. Go back to the design methodology. Start with empathy. Discuss your customers' problems and experiences. If there's one thing today that I want you to go and think about before we pick up next week, it's this, by the way. So start with empathy, discuss your customers' problems and experiences. Ask their past action, ask them about their past action experiences, like focus on the behavior. Don't ask them to validate your idea or seek praise. Not allowed at all. But bit like what I was saying about the design methodology, you can't start thinking about the solution. You need to stay centered around the problem and really come up with neutral ideas from the viewpoint of the customer. And you're going to focus on discovering the truth, even if it means hearing criticism. It's taken me years. At first, I used to find criticism and feedback really uncomfortable. Now, it still makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but I really do embrace it. It's how I've grown, it's how I've learned, and it's how I've become the person that I've become. So I love getting feedback now. Pay close attention to what they're saying and ask follow-up questions and delve deeper. Okay, really, really, really important. So I want you to think, if you've got access to someone who you think is your audience, if you've already got an audience in a marketplace, these are just some of the things that you want to be doing. It might be that you've got people within your community that you can actually just pick up the phone and speak to. We don't class that as research because it just sounds way too basic for whatever reason. But doing this with all the official research can make the world of difference, ladies. It really can. So what you got to think about, is the product a good idea? Would you buy my product? Would you sign up for the service? What does this matter? What is the problem? How often do you have the problem? How can I help? Okay, it's really about being able to dig down and really, really be able to think about from the customer's viewpoint, okay, does this matter to them? What is the problem? Do I really understand it? And making sure that you're finding that out. So next week, what we're going to be going on to is market sizing, and we're also then going to transition into the value proposition. You will get a copy of this slide, and the recording will be inside the community. Okay. What I do want to do, though, is for those of you that it's making you think about your business and things that you might need to do in your business before, actually thinking, I'm going to present this to funders. Please do make sure that you check out our membership, by the way. Really, really important. I'm going to stop. Actually, no, I'm not going to stop sharing. We are starting a new cohort. So I'm going to, Princess, if you could put the link into the chat to our membership. So all the stuff that's in our community is all there for you. We've created a really great community with value. And what we've done and everything that's in there is completely free of charge. And the only problem with something free is people devalue it. But we put a lot of effort and work, and Princess, who was our community manager, does a lot in there day in, day out, to make sure that we're always helping and supporting. But every quarter, we have a cohort that goes through to our paid membership site. And in there, you get a 12-week online course, which really teaches you how to build out a strategy. The strategy is looked at in 3 months. There's loads of resources that go with it. But the actual staple program that makes up our membership is a 12-week program. Within that 12-week program, you have a recorded class every single week. And then the following day, you have a Q&A live with me, and you've got homework to do, and it follows that process for 12 weeks. It falls into 3 stages. The first stage is all about building out a strategy. Understanding your whole user journey and building out a strategy and a plan, and you using the design thinking methodology. And even if your business is already trading, it's just about back testing it and saying, yep, this is what we really want to scale on because we know it's going to work, and actually having a visual plan. The second phase, the second month, is looking at, okay, how do we collect data on this to make sure that we can grow and scale? So now we've got to look at all the technology and automations that we're going to use to make sure that we can achieve what we want to achieve. The third month and the last and final stage is now optimizing everything that we've learned, everything that we've tested, everything we set up for the data. We now look at the data and say, okay, let's optimize this, because I think this is what's going to be the right and final model. When you've got the right model and you understand exactly who your customers are, what your product or service offering is, you understand your customer on a deeper level, you have a plan of how you're going to automate your whole business model, it now allows you to go out and market it and understand that you've got something that works, rather than trying to market something that's falling apart at the back end and you're trying to build a market at the same time. So there's a link in the chat that Princess has put in the chat. If you something of interest to you, just check out the link there, join the waitlist page. We don't open it up to everyone. Actually, when you join the waitlist, you're actually going to have a call with me just to make sure that you're at the right stage of business. Because the last thing I want to do is what anybody did to me and sell you something that isn't right for you just because I want to get a certain amount of sales in per month. That's not what it's there for. So the link's there, and it's a special founders price. And I promise you, the stuff that that program delivers is things that I don't even really want to go into that spiel because it's really not me. You can hear I'm stuttering, but the value of that content actually is quite high value. You know, what I've paid to learn, mistakes I've made while I've gone through consulting. It's not just like one layer, like low level stuff. It's really going to give you the tools that you need. Diane, hands raised. Please do come off mute.
I would just want to say that not because I know you and stuff, but I'm a marketeer too, and I would say to anyone on this call that even me as being a marketeer, it's good to get these kinds of learnings from somebody else, because it makes you really look back and say, okay, this is what I would normally do. But sometimes you're so close to it that you need that external person to give you a different viewpoint and to look at things from a different perspective. So yeah, I think very valuable.
Thanks, Diane. I appreciate that. And I do know, Diane, like I said, Diane is definitely on my kitchen table, I would say my challenger. And that's one of the things that I love about you. But we all do. I find, do you know what's funny, guys? Diane's so right. Do you know how much easier I find consulting? Like even this week, I had a client, and I've only been working with them for three months, and they had an increase of. They're an established business, so obviously consulting is going to be easier. Not to downplay myself, but their profits went up by 30% from what was implemented, and I just didn't even look at it as anything good. What I do for other people, I seem to struggle to do for myself. Like I'm always saying to people, get reviews, do this, do that. And sometimes I'm talking and I think, girl, you need to listen to yourself. So that is definitely true. Sometimes it is just about having a fresh pair of eyes. But I think for me, if you said to me, what's the one thing that turned things around for me, it was working and thinking strategically. If I was to keep it real, if I had to pick one thing from my toolbox, it was strategy. I really started to understand that putting together a customer journey in great detail and having a plan that actually is going to work and then implementing that plan goes a long way. But don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed every minute of it, and the failings have been my greatest win, have become my greatest wins. So sometimes your journey goes the way that it's meant to go. Entrepreneurialism isn't really something you can learn, it's something that's ingrained in you. But ladies, I'm not going to keep you any longer, because if it's down to me, I would have you here for another half an hour. I'm actually about to run another session as well, but absolute pleasure to having you. We'll be back here next week. Like I said, recordings will be put into the community. And next week, we will be picking up from market sizing and continuing. So I shall see you next week. And thank you, everybody, for coming.